Welcome to this online lecture on numerical methods by Professor Tanuja Endate from Electrical Engineering Department, K.K. Wagh Institute of Engineering Education and Research, Nasik. This is from the second year Electrical Engineering syllabus for the subject Numerical Methods from Unit 1. Now, when we look at the concept of roots, what do we mean by roots? Now, in this diagram, if we see, this is a plot for a function which is shown, which we in general call as fx. Now, when we say this is the root of this equation, we expect that the function value should become 0. And so, we are following fx equal to 0 as the location of the root. So we can see that there are 3 roots which are identified in the scope which we have shown from -1 to +2 for this diagram. Now when we say these are the roots, for identifying these roots from the polynomial equations which we are forming, we need to use certain methods, and there are a number of different types of roots which are shown in this diagram. Now we can see that the way this graph is intersecting with x-axis, there is a difference between this intersection and this intersection. So we can see that there are multiple roots which are present here, and so when we check, the roots can be real. In real roots, they may be distinct roots, they may be positive and negative roots, they may be distinct and they may be also repeated roots. Or the other type is called as complex roots. Most of the complex roots, we are aware that they are obtained in pairs, which we call as complex conjugates. And so this can be identified as a single root which is located here. This is a double root because there is a change of curve which we are seeing here. So it meets this x-axis and then repeats the root, and so it turns towards the other point. So similarly, in this graph we can see that there is an intersection with y-axis which is called as y-intercept, and so this is corresponding to x equal to 0 value. These two peaks are shown as local maximum point or global maximum point, which are also can be obtained from the given polynomial expression. Our interest is to understand what do we mean by roots. Now we can also study Descartes' rule of sign change, which is popularly used. From a given polynomial expression f of x equal to, in general form we can write it in terms of the coefficients an to a0 and powers of x, and so we can take this as an x raised to n plus an minus 1 x raised to n minus 1 and so on when we go towards a1x plus a0. If this is a polynomial with real coefficients, the Descartes' rule of sign change says that the number of positive real zeros of f is either equal to the number of sign changes of fx or is less than the number by even integer. This only means that if we count the number of sign changes in the given polynomial expression, we can count the number of sign changes which equal to positive real roots. When we say zeros, these are nothing but intersections with the x-axis, which we say f of x equal to 0, and so they are called as zeros. Okay, so these are nothing but the positive real roots. Now this is the maximum number of positive real roots, so this is a prediction, or these are the possibility of number of real roots. They can practically be less by number of even integers. So if we identify say 4 positive real roots, it is not mandatory that they will be 4. They may be 4 or 2 or 0. So they can be lesser than this predicted number. So these are the maximum possible positive real roots. The same polynomial expression, if we replace x equal to minus x and rearrange the terms on the right hand side as per the sign changes and count the number of sign changes, The Descartes rule says that the number of negative real zeros either equal to number of sign changes of f of minus x or is less than that number by even integer. So same is applicable like positive real roots. By replacing x by minus x, when we count number of sign changes, that is the indication of possible maximum negative real roots. Okay, so this Descartes rule is extremely useful for guessing how many positive and negative real roots may exist for the given polynomial expression. So let us take this example. If this polynomial expression is 9x raised to 5 minus 4x raised to 4 minus 2x cube minus x square plus 5x minus 7, we can count the number of sign changes. This is the positive term, this is the negative term, so one sign change here. The negative sign remains as it is, so there is no sign change, and then again the sign change is observed, negative to positive and positive to negative. So there are three sign changes in this, and so this is f of x which we are checking, and so it says maximum it can have possibility of 3 positive real roots or zeros. Now you can see the highest power of this polynomial expression appears to be 5. So out of 5, 3 may be positive, remaining 2 may be negative, possibly. Okay, so that we can check again. If we replace this by negative x minus x, the sign of this polynomial will become minus. This will remain minus. This will become positive. So minus minus plus, again minus minus minus. So there are two sign changes. As this is minus, this becomes remains minus, this becomes plus. So one sign change here, and the remaining 3 terms are all negative. So second sign change between these two when we replace by minus x. So it appears maximum 2 negative real roots are possible. So since this is only a prediction, and guess what, we can say 3 positive and 2 negative real roots are possible, but otherwise lesser by even number. So instead of 3 it could be 1 positive real root, and instead of 2 negative roots it may be 0 negative root. Okay, possible actually when we try calculating. This is how we can make use of Descartes' rule of sign change for predicting how many positive and negative real roots are there for the given polynomial expression. This is another example which is used for counting the number of sign changes. Quickly we can go through, we can check positive to negative 1 sign change, negative to positive 2nd sign change, positive to negative 3rd sign change, no sign change, again 1 sign change. So 1, 2, 3, 4 are possibly positive real roots. Okay, so positive real roots are written here. When we replace x by minus x, this becomes minus. Okay, this will remain minus, this will become minus, this will become remain minus, this will become plus, and this remains plus. So only 1 sign change when x is replaced by minus x, and so for negative real roots it is surely 1. So why we are sure of negative real root in this case? Because it cannot be reduced by an even number for the guesswork. Since it is 1, we are sure that 1 negative root is surely present. And then since the highest power is 5, the possible positive real roots could be 4, or they could be 2, or they could be 0. Because every time we are reducing by an even number, but negative root remains 1. And then remaining roots, difference of these two would be the imaginary roots. Since this difference is 0, 4 plus 1 and 5 difference is 0. This is 3 and this is 5, so 2 could be imaginary roots in this case. If 0 positive real roots, then there will be 2 pairs of imaginary roots. Okay, and so this is how we can guess. This is another problem which we can again discuss for checking how to use Descartes' rule of sign change. Now you can quickly see the number of sign changes for positive, 2 sign changes in fx, So maximum could be 2 positive real roots. When we replace x by minus x, we get the sign changes which are indicated in this equation. There are 3 sign changes, so it could have 3 negative real roots. Okay. If this is clear, this is just a fundamental expression which we have made use of for identifying the possible real roots and imaginary roots. Now this is another intermediate value theorem which we can study. The theorem says if f is a continuous function in the range a to b and k is any number between f of a and f of b inclusive, then there is at least one number c in the interval a and b such that f of c equal to k. Now what does it actually mean? Okay, so you can see here graphically it is represented that there is a range of a and b in which the function is assumed to be continuous first of all. Then we evaluate the function corresponding to these points as f of a and f of b, and we say that there lies a point k between f of a and f of b such that there would be some point c in the interval a and b where function f of c would be equal to k. Okay. So k could be any point, okay, c could be any point which we have shown. In this case it is used as if this is a root. Okay. Now this intermediate value theorem can be used to find location of a root. If the function is continuous in the range a and b, it shows change of sign where f of a and f of b is showing change of sign. Then there exists a point c in the range ab which could be root of the given function, making f of c equal to 0. So this is a general expression where this is a specific case where we know that k value would take value of 0. Then we can call c as the point where it is a root lying for the given polynomial expression. Okay, so this intermediate value theorem is largely used while solving some of the polynomial expressions, and we will be studying various methods where this intermediate value theorem is made use of for finding the root of the given polynomial expression, either by direct method or by iterative method. Most of the methods which we are going to study are iterative in nature, and so we will be making use of this intermediate value theorem largely. Now there is one problem given. Use intermediate value theorem to show the equation x cube plus 7x plus 5 equal to 0 has a solution in the interval -1 to 0. So what we would be doing, this is a and b for us. We are assuming that this function is continuous in this range, and so we will be evaluating the function by putting a and b values, which we will be calling as f of a and f of b. In this case it would be function evaluated at -1 and 0. If we put x equal to 0, it is very easy. F of b or f of 0 is 5. And when we put f of a as -1, -1 cube becomes -1. When we put -1 here, it becomes -7. So -8 plus 5, the function value becomes -3. So when we take, now there is change of sign between f of a and f of b. So f of a is -3, f of b is 5, and so function is changing its sign. It is -3 to +5. So we can prove that there will be some point between -1 and 0 at which the function root would be lying, okay, which we call as solution of the given polynomial expression. You can try solving this equation and you can verify there is surely one root between -1 and 0. We can also use Descartes' rule of sign change by putting value of x equal to, when it is f of x, The number of sign changes are no sign changes, so no positive real root, right? And when we put x equal to minus x, it becomes minus sign here, and plus sign here. So one sign change indicates that there is one negative real root. So no positive real root and one negative real root indicates that there is a pair of complex roots in this. One negative real root lying between minus 1 and 0, and there will be a pair of complex roots. Okay, so this is how we can make use of the Descartes rule as well as intermediate value theorem to find out the location of the root and count of positive and negative real roots. Moving ahead, we can also study a specific method which is used for solving polynomial equations. Now this is a very simple method which makes use of synthetic division, which you must have already studied. For the polynomial expression px written in the form of an plus an minus 1x plus n minus 2x square and so on, the highest order polynomial is written along with the coefficient a0. So a0, a1, then a2, a3 and so on. We will be writing the coefficients of the polynomial expressions ranging from highest degree to highest order to lowest order of x. Now this method is an iterative method and it starts with initial guess value of root, which we are going to call as p0. The correction in the root value, since it is iterative, at the end of one process we always make correction in the starting guess value, and so correction is given as p1 equal to p0 minus bn upon cn minus 1. Now how it can be obtained, how these values can be obtained, we will be studying soon in the next slide, where bn and cn minus 1 are obtained from the synthetic division process. Now this Burge-Vieta method is a combination of synthetic division, and later on we will realize that this formula which we are making use of is exactly similar to the Newton-Raphson method formula, which we will be studying. So bn and cn minus 1 are nothing but the derivative terms which are evaluated and the function evaluated at the starting guess value. Okay. The value of bn, which is the function value at the guess value, like f of p0, we will be getting bn as that value, and this value indicates nearness to root. When bn becomes 0 or it reaches in the specific range, sometimes we specify that if we reach so close to the root value, we are satisfied. So that we generally use as the error value. So if we specify instead of 0, we specify a very small number, we can say that that is indicating the nearness to the real actual root value. Then we can declare the root can be obtained at that p value, whatever we are calculating bn for. Till then, the next iteration is carried out by replacing p1 in p0 value and repeat the synthetic division again. Okay, so every time we replace the new value calculated into the previous initial guess value and we repeat the iteration. That is how Burge-Vieta method is used. Now to see the details of exactly how this process is carried out, now I am just asking you to pay attention. This is the coefficient of the highest order of the polynomial expression. So a0 corresponding to x raised to n, a1 corresponding to x raised to n minus 1 and so on, and an is associated with x raised to 0. So when we arrange the coefficients of the given polynomial expression in this manner and we write the initial starting guess value which we are assuming, this is the assumed value of root. Okay, we can write it here and we start doing the simple calculations. The first coefficients we call them as A coefficients because they are available from the original polynomial expression. We can obtain B coefficients and C coefficients gradually as we carry out this calculation. Now how to calculate this? For obtaining b coefficients, the first coefficient we are calling as with 0 suffix. So this is a0. This suffix will be b0, the first component. But we can see that a0 value is written as it is as b0 and again then same as c0. So for the first coefficient there is no change. a0, b0, c0, everything will be same. So b0 is equal to a0. Then b1 is calculated by multiplying p0 with a0, which we are calling as b0 now. So p0 b0 added with a1. a1 plus p0 b0 becomes b1. For the next calculation, we multiply b1 with p0. I'm sorry, I have written here p1, but instead of that it should have been p0. So p0 b1 added with a2 becomes b2. Okay, and so on. We complete this calculation by adding the a coefficient with the previously calculated b coefficient with p0 added with this coefficient, and we obtain bn minus 1. So on, when we get pn value, this value, looking at this value, we can realize this is nothing but the function evaluated, the polynomial expression evaluated by putting x equal to b0. So bn coefficient is an indication how close we are to the actual root value. If bn is large, we know that p0 is just approximation and it is nowhere very close to the root. Now we repeat this calculation for c coefficient calculation by taking c0 is equal to b0. c1 will be calculated as p0 added with b1, we get c1. Now these expressions I have written here. How to calculate rest of the coefficients? We must remember there is no cn coefficient calculated. It is not necessary because this is the function evaluation f of x, f of p0, and this is the first derivative of the function. So one term is reduced and we do not require cn to be calculated. So I have not written cn. This must be remembered. Now by completing these calculations, we pick up only bn and cn minus 1 values for calculation of new value of the assumed starting value of the root. So p1 can be calculated as original p0 minus bn upon cn minus 1. Okay. So this is a correction which we are giving in the starting guess value. This new value becomes the starting value for the next iteration. And so when we check for starting new iteration, we must replace p1 value in p0. Okay, and then this iteration will be again calculated where a coefficients remain same, but we need to calculate b and c coefficients by considering new value of p here, and we will be calling it as the second iteration. Again at the end of second iteration we will get some correction in p value, and this bn value will be the indication whether we are converging on the process of finding the root. When bn value ideally reaches very close to 0, this value of p which we are using is very close to the actual root value. So this process is said to be converging on the actual root, and we can extract that root from the polynomial expression. And then Burgh-Vieta method can be used for identifying and extracting one root at a time from the given polynomial expression. The only limitation is it has to be a polynomial expression in single variable. Okay, so if you have understood this, we can check how this method can be used by considering the numerical. Now let us solve 2x cube minus 5x plus 1 equal to 0 using Burgh-Vieta method, and the initial guess value is given to be 1. Okay, show 2 iterations. So 2 iterations are shown here. You can see iteration number 1, we are taking the starting value here and the coefficients of this polynomial expression are entered here. So 2 corresponding to x square, there is no coefficient, so we have entered 0, then entered minus 5 and plus 1. So these are a coefficients for the given polynomial expression. Now we can see that these are b coefficients which we are trying to calculate. B0 is written as it is. Now 2 into 1 is multiplied here and added in 0 value. So 0 plus 2 becomes 2. Again 2 multiplied by 1, 2 is added here, minus 5 plus 2, minus 3. Minus 3 into 1, minus 3 here, 1 minus 3 becomes minus 2. So this value is our Bn, which we have calculated. Now repeat this calculation for C coefficient calculation. C0 is written as it is. 2 into 1 written here, 2 plus 2, 4. Not to subtract, but you have to add it. 4 into 1 written here, 4 minus 3 is 1. Okay, now remember, in this calculation we have shown Cn calculation, but this is not required. Okay, so 1 into 1 added here, this is minus 1. So this is Bn and this is Cn, but we do not require Cn for further calculation. We require Bn and Cn minus 1. So you can see P1 equal to P0 minus Bn, which is B3 here, and divided by C2, which is n minus 1. And so original value was 1 minus B3 is minus 2 divided by 1. So minus minus 1, new value of P becomes 3. Okay. Now this should be replaced in P0, and so second iteration is continued here with the same A coefficients. New value of P is considered as 3, and we are repeating the calculation. Now you can check 2 written as it is, 3 into 2 6, 6 into 3 18, added with minus 5 becomes 13, 13 3s are 39, and this value becomes 40. Okay, now we can see that Bn value earlier was minus 2, now it is plus 40, so it is increasing. So it is surely not near 3. It is near 1, which is the indication of nearness of the root. But we are continuing with this process. 2 is written as it is as C0 coefficient. 3 into 2 6, 6 plus 6 12, 12 3s are 36, which is added 49. And this calculation is not required. As we said, Cn calculation is not needed. So here as well as here, this is not required calculation. You can just leave it as Bn and Cn minus 1. So now you can see the correction which is provided for P calculation would be 3 minus 40 divided by 49. Okay, so some fraction is reduced from 3 and new value of P is 2.1837. Since they have asked us to do only 2 iterations, we have stopped here, but otherwise we would have taken this as the new value of P and continue with this calculation. Gradually, for this value now, Bn value will be surely less than 40, it will be moving towards 0. And we will obtain the final value of P, the root, which we are trying to identify using Berge-Vieta method, using these iterative methods. So I have included some practice problems in this slide. There are 2 or 3 problems for every method which we have studied have been included, and they can be used for practice to check whether we have understood whatever we have studied and learned in this lecture. To summarize, at the end, we are using Descartes' rule of sign change for identifying how many positive and negative real roots are possible for the given polynomial expression. We can make use of intermediate value theorem for identifying the location and possibility of root in the given range if the function is continuous between the range given a and b. And we can make use of Berge-Vieta method for actually extracting real roots for the given polynomial expression in single variable. Berge-Vieta method is a combination of synthetic division and Newton-Raphson method for giving correction in the initial guess value. This is an iterative method and it converges to the root depending at a rate and depending on the initial starting value of the root which we are assuming. Okay. I hope you have understood the concepts which I have explained in this video, and you will be able to solve these practice problems on your own, making use of all the concepts. Make sure you solve these problems and feel confident about making use of the concepts which we have studied in this video. Thank you.